Welcome to the rabbit hole. I was just watching some of my daily videos and ran across one that really made me shudder. It's George Webb. He's a great investigative reporter. If you don't follow him, at least on YouTube, you should be. If you can join his Patreon, you should. I know everybody can't, but he really knows his stuff. He's not always right, like the rest of us, but I tell you what, he's more right than he is wrong. Anyway, if you're in the neighborhood of any of the protests, you should stay away from them for the next few days at least. It's can be a very dangerous thing right now. And anyway, just watch this. God bless you guys. Stay safe. And I'll talk to you later.
Okay, I wanted to make this video for folks who are on Patreon. If you followed the series a while, you know that we've been predicting that the DNC, if they got in trouble, would try to Ukraine America. And what I mean by when they try to Ukraine America, if you remember in the Maidan shootings, they brought in snipers from other countries. They brought in weapons and high-end sights from other countries. And they shot people on both sides. They shot 30 cops on one side in Maidan, and they shot 60 protesters on the other. And each side naturally blamed it on the other to escalate the conflict. Here again, I know a lot of people are saying Antifa. I know a lot of people are saying La Raza. I know a lot of people are saying Muslim Brotherhood. But it's getting down to the actual places where the weapons are coming from. We, 3 years ago, said Keith Ellison was the key storehouse, along with Peter Strzok, in that particular police department. I'm sure there's weapons when they stormed, quote-unquote, stormed the Minneapolis Police Department. I'm sure that they got a large cache of weapons there, along with sights, high-end sights. Again, go back to Peter Strzok and look at what he merchandises in. Night vision goggles, infrared sights. And again, that's to shoot police officers and protesters on both sides. And then look at Seattle now with the takeover of the 3rd precinct. Anytime you see these cockamamie stories where a bunch of first-year lit students at the University of Washington take over a precinct, it's a ridiculous cover story. It's not that first-year pasty white kids taking diversity studies in Capitol Hill. I've been to the neighborhood, know what I'm talking about. Used to be a bad neighborhood, right at the apron of Amazon, right there under Amazon. Just an obvious operation. They're gonna give the weapons to 3rd precinct to this group. The shooters are not gonna be Black Lives Matter. Again, that's gonna be where you hide the shooters. You're gonna hide the shooters that you trained in Somalia, if it's Al-Shabaab, or if it's in Central America with La Raza, to move the weapons. You're going to bring your shooters in and mix them in. It's just exactly what happened in Maidan Square. We see it happening over and over, but this is why we keep going to places, and people say, I don't understand why you're going to the place, to the Russian guy, Makarenko, and Nevedumi. I don't know why. I don't understand why you're following the infrared sights that are being divvied out there in Florida. I don't understand why you're going to all the different Russian generals' joint ventures where they're bringing in high-end sniper rifles into the United States. I don't understand why you're going to the port of Canaveral where we don't have control and we have an outside Muslim Brotherhood party controlling, and Hezbollah, potentially, one or both, controlling different ports in the United States like Houston and these other ports. Well, it's because we're getting down to the details. Why are we knocking on Imran's door? To get the encrypted communication that these people use to move these weapons. This is now or never time. It's very easy to read tea leaves and say, hey, La Raza is going to link up with Muslim Brotherhood, and they're going to start a war, but it's more important to get down to actually the Krylovas and Bogachevas and look at the modus operandi of how they spread the fake news and how they did the toxic clouds and how they did the bioweapons, and identify the actual connections to bringing these GRU operatives in, and identifying the areas of where this in the State Department that had to give them visas, identifying that this North Carolina professor writes books about female women Russian snipers. Does that seem relevant now? I think it seems relevant now. Remember, Krylova writes a book on female Russian women snipers. Remember Paul Whelan, what's he doing? He's recruiting snipers. He's telling them what's the last thing that goes through your mind before you shoot somebody. And he says it's a slight jolt. He makes a joke about it. So we're not guessing. We're going to the actual locations in all these places so that law enforcement now can come back and look and say, oh, there was a warehouse there. There was a factory there. There was a place where they were bringing in the sites there. There was the Blackstone Express in all these locations, because ATF isn't doing it. You think, oh, that's alcohol, tobacco, firearms job. They're the ones who ran the op. That's why we're talking to the whistleblower of the ATF op. I've interviewed a lot of ATF agents. They say that they run around to different places that sell weapons, like Walmarts and other places like Bass Sporting Goods. And they go to these shows, and most of them are making sure that there are background checks being made. Most of the ATF agents, those aren't the ones I'm talking about. I'm talking about this small crew of ATF agents that did Fast and Furious. If you pull on that thread, you're going to get Libya, you're going to get Syria, you're going to get Sudan, you're going to get Yemen, you're going to get all the actions in Africa, you're going to get struck. So I know it's sometimes hard for people who don't see the whole picture and why we're putting all the pieces together. But hopefully you as Patreons have seen the legwork that we've done leading up to this, saying they're going to make it square the United States. And here now, 3 years later, it's happening. We'll keep putting the pieces together on the regular channel, but hopefully the regular viewers who have been with me a long time can see why we've been putting the pieces together we have been, and why we're doing the interviews we are doing. Thanks very much.